Hello, lovely people on the internet. Today, I'm going to present to you a solution for a very common Photoshop problem that arises when you're using Wacom Tablet. Now, the problem is that when you're using Wacom Tablet, for example, uh, I pick the brush tool and I hold Shift trying to draw a straight line. And the first straight line usually is fine, but after the first straight line, when I'm trying to draw the second line or the third line, the Photoshop sometimes freezes for maybe 10 or 20 seconds. So in this video, I'm gonna give you a solution to solve this problem. Now the video will be divided in two sections. The first section, I'm gonna talk about why this problem happens, and in the second section, I'm gonna give you the solution. So let's first talk about why this problem happens. Now, in this document, tablet support for Photoshop. Don't worry about this website. I'll post the link in the video description later. Um, as you can see, it says on Windows 8 or later, Photoshop CC 2014 or later will use Windows Ink, a Windows System Stylus API, to control the interaction of Photoshop and a stylus device. So what this means is basically I draw a little simple diagram to show you what happens when you're using a tablet. It's a simplification, it, it works. No, sorry. It's a simplification, but it's a simplification, but the basic principle is right. So as this document said, as this document said, when you're using Photoshop on Windows 10 and using a relatively newer version of Photoshop, there the Photoshop and Wacom Tablet and Stylus, they're not communicating directly. There is a Windows Ink, which is introduced, I think, probably after Windows 8 as a middleman. So the Windows Ink, your Wacom Tablet first talks to the Windows Ink, and then Windows Ink passes messages to Photoshop, and vice versa. So the problem, why your Photoshop freezes when you're using Wacom Tablet, is because of this middleman. He get the message wrong or something else. Anyway, he screws things up. So we need to get rid of it. So now we can talk about the second part, how to solve this problem. So to get rid of it, we have to get rid of it in the both ends of this diagram. We have to tell the Wacom tablet that we don't want to use Windows Ink, and we have to tell the Photoshop that Photoshop that don't use Windows Ink as well. So first we need to tell Wacom Tablet don't use Windows Ink. The way we do this is we bring up the the driver for your Wacom Tablet. Now my Wacom Tablet driver is in Chinese, but I haven't figured out a way to turn it into English. But the same thing applies for different language. Now in the top row there is a row of application which gives you a very detailed control of what options to use when you're using a specific application. So in this case, we care about how Photoshop should use the Wacom tablet. So we just click the Photoshop, and every application has a tab of settings, and you pick the tab that tells you decides how your working area on the Wacom tablet is corresponding to the monitor. In this tab, in the bottom row, there's a little checkbox, and it has to do with Windows Ink. What it does is it decides whether this application is using Windows Ink to talk to tablet, or is directly or is using another channel, and we don't want the Photoshop to talk using Windows Ink to talk to the stylus and tablet, so we take this off. Now this is the first part of the solution. After you take it off, the Photoshop will no longer freezes, but here is another problem that you will find out that the pen pressure is not working. Mine is working because I've already done the second part of the solution. But a lot of people will notice that after check off that box, your pen pressure is gone. So we need the second part of solution to solve this problem, which is to tell Photoshop not to use Windows Ink. And the way we do this is actually Adobe has an official document that tells you how to do this. And I will post the link to this document in the video description below. But here I'm just going to show you on this page. It's called Enabled Optional Extensions. And in this page, on this page, there is a section called Search Stylus. Turn off System Stylus. Yeah, this is what we're interested in. So we need to tell Photoshop to turn off System Stylus. You can see the description here that if the tablet uses a WinTab driver and does not have an option to use Windows Ink, or if you encounter other issues, you can use turn off System Stylus to force Photoshop to use WinTab. So this is what we're doing. We're telling the Photoshop to turn off System Stylus, to use this WinTab thing to talk to this Wacom, which will solve the problem. And the way we do this is just you create an empty notepad, empty text file, and write this down. There are two lines. The first line starts with a hashtag and use WinTab. The second line is the thing that actually does the work. It says use System Stylus 0, which usually means turn this thing off in the computer commands. So you write these two lines in an empty text file and save it. I've already got one here. Save it and put this file into a specific location so that the Photoshop will load it up when it fires up, when it launch. Now here tells you where you need to put this file. You need to put the installation drive, username, app data, roaming, Adobe Photoshop, Photoshop setting. Well, it's a bit long, but just take a little bit patience to get you into the right place. Now, a quick way to get here is well, let me show you. Just let me show you what this directory looks like on my machine. So this is my C drive. I think the installation drive usually means your system drive, where you install your operation system. So mine is C, and I'm looking for the user. The user in Chinese is this one. And username, which is my own username, Mike. And looking for app data. And let's go roaming. Now is Adobe. Now is Adobe Photoshop 2020. Yeah, you just pick the latest the newest version you're using. It's 2020, and you go to Adobe Photoshop 2020 settings. Here we go. Now, as you can see, I have already mine is already here. PS user config. Yeah, the command is already here. There's one thing to note, that you have to name it like it says. You have to name it as PS user config, and pay attention to the letter case. And you yeah, so you make a text file with these commands and put it here. And if your Photoshop is already open, you just close it close it and reopen it, and everything will work normally again. The Photoshop will no longer stutter or freeze, and you will get your pen pressure back. Thank you.